Hey guys, just a reminder, if you want to hear all of these wonderful B Plus podcast episodes completely ad-free, make sure you head over to Patreon or Podbean, where we are the featured podcast this week. You can subscribe for as little as $1 a month up to $10 a month, where anything you want to help us with, it really helps out. It's going to help us grow the site. It's going to help us redesign some things, and everything that we get through this and through the advertising as well is all going straight back into the podcast so that we can get Aussie Graps out there for the rest of the world to hear about, for the rest of the world to see, so we can grow this mission of watch global, support local, and build indie wrestling. So if you want to be a part of that and get some really cool rewards like call-in shows, bonus episodes, ad-free like I mentioned, then head over to patreon.com/theb+ and subscribe today.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the main event of the evening.
Hold one, arm drag.
You're not good at this. Get out. Let me tell you a personal story about Vince McMahon.
You just made the list.
Oh my God!
Sorry, no speak English.
Dummy. Goodbye and good night. Hold two, arm bar.
It's still real to me, damn it!
Dummy.
This is the worst town I've ever been in.
Hold three, the moss covered, three-handle family Gradunzo.
Mamma mia!
And now,
Unchained.media presents the B Plus Podcast with your host, Greg Unchained.
it's me, Austin. It was me all along, Austin. Number 4, armbar. I will never retire. I still got 200 more. I got 200 more holes to list.
Good afternoon, everyone out there in the land of the B+. It is me, your host of All The Wrest, Mr Myster1ous, and we are going to be doing a big coverage of all the wrestling news that we can't fit into our usual podcast because the B+, we got you back. We got you back on WWE, we got you back on Impact, NXT, and of course, my personal favourite, the Aussie Grats podcast, where we highlight the Australian wrestling scene, which is getting bigger and better every day. And in this world of professional wrestling, it can be a little bit confusing. It can be a bit muddled. But you know what? Mr Myster1ous here to help you all figure it out. I'm going to be covering, as always, a little bit of MLW, NWA, All Elite Wrestling news, and all the other stories that have come across my desk this week. Bit of housekeeping, guys. I should mention I'm running on a bit of fumes because I was at the first ever WPW Uncensored show, 18 plus event. So if I seem a little bit out of sorts, that's why. But of course, where would we be without birthdays? And at the time I'm recording, Zach Gowen turns 35, the famous one-legged wrestler from WWE, gone on to do success outside of it, of course, and still wrestling, I believe. The guy is a big talent, and it shows that you can still wrestle with disabilities, age. Some of these things cannot hinder your ability to be a professional wrestler. Zach Gowen turns 35, so congratulations to him. Now, of course, let's start with MLW Episode 50, main evented by the death match between LA Park and Mance Warner. I had fun with this episode MLW. It wasn't it was more of a storyline episode this week rather than, oh my god, these are the best matches ever, which sometimes MLW can just sneak up on you and give you an amazing thing. We opened the show with one of my favorite things, storyline, as I mentioned. MJF's car has been vandalized. Someone has tagged it or thrown a brick at it, one of the two, and has got a tip saying that a known felon is in the building. But who could that be? It's Teddy Hart. MJF has screwed Teddy Hart. Teddy Hart had to go to the police station for questioning. Davey Boy Smith had to bail him out, leaving Brian Pillman Jr. on his lonesome for his upcoming match against Alexander Hammerstone. Brian promised Hammerstone that snitches will get stitches, and can I say the whole dynamic between Pillman and Teddy Hart, it's a very it feels like a father-son kind of thing because it feels like Teddy Hart is his world, and he was visibly upset, which we'll see how pissed and deranged if you make Pillman. I don't know. It's probably not a good idea, guys. We started out with Myron Reed going up against Gringo Loco. Myron is doing a storyline at the moment where he is an advocate or in support of Rich Swann, who we still don't exactly know what's going on, but we know that he doesn't like officials and he's coming back from his suspension. Myron has jumped on the bandwagon. Usually in other promotions, other bigger promotions, I would not like the idea of wrestlers kind of tagging on or piggybacking on storylines. But in the land of MLW, when there's only about an hour to cover as much as you can every week, more power to them, because the middleweights, they don't have a lot of story. They just kind of linger around until they get called up for a championship match or a tag match. So more stories, more factions, more tag teams. I am all for it. Loco is this was a hometown crowd for Gringo Loco. And again, with Gringo, this was I felt that he was in a story with promotion as Dorado, but it feels like old Mance Warner's taken that from him. The theme from this is that Myron had a continuous issue with the referee, Doug Markham. I made sure to mention him. So Gringo recovered. He hit Reed with a springboard cutter, followed by a spiral tap move, which gave him the victory. After the match, Reed took his issues out on the referee once again, chastised Markham, clocked him a little bit, and I believe Myron Reed has been fined. The amount I do not know off the top of my head, but it seems like he's going to be kind of unraveling as Rich Swann. Whether they be a new faction, I don't know. I feel like it's more of a kindred spirit kind of relationship at the moment. We had the recap from last week, how Mance Warner was on commentary and talking all about Larius and light beers and talking really fast, and you can't keep straight with him, and it's just very all over the place. We had Contra speak out for the first time. We had Fatu saying, "We want the gold, we want the power, we are the international dealers in violence." Gosh adds, "and business is good." And then Samael just adds that little bit extra, "You cannot burn a kingdom made of fire." Ooh, slick burn. These guys are the new hotness in MLW. Looking forward to what we have in store for them in the next coming weeks. Next up, we have the Dynasty and the Hart Foundation clashing once again with Alexander Hammerstone going against Brian Pillman. MJF is just reveling in being this deplorable prick. And I love how much attention they're giving him because he is the best at what he does, and we all know it deep down. This seems to be the Dynasty's MO, to just isolate a single member so they can have the advantage because they know that the Hart Foundation have the experience, they have the muscle. Brian Pillman, he came out. This was a really good match for Pillman. It seemed like he was visibly upset, like I mentioned earlier, but it seemed he was very, much more hard hitting. And with Alexander Hammerstone, bigger guy, more mass to him. I believe they're about the same age. I have to look that up later. But it seems like Pillman was a legitimate threat to Hammerstone, who's only had a couple matches, and already it's like, oh shit, this is a real big challenge to him. It seemed like Pillman could have won this match if the Hart Foundation were there to keep the Dynasty in check, but with a bit of distraction from MJF, Alexander Hammerstone hits his beautiful finish of the Nightmare Pendulum. I'm glad it works really well on normal size guys because these past couple matches he's had against real lightweights. But the Nightmare Pendulum, seriously guys, Google it. I'm in love with that finishing move. Afterwards, the Dynasty beat down Pillman some more, and Hammerstone destroyed two of Teddy Hart's prize necklaces that Teddy gifted Brian, which they're getting more vile and deplorable, and I love it. We will see what happens with that. We had a promo, a video check-in with Filthy Tom Lawler in preparation for his match against Jimmy Havoc, his first defense after, let's say second defense. Second defense now against the new challenger in Jimmy Havoc. It seemed very infomercial. It feels like Tom Lawler's kind of lingering as champion. They built all the way. They had this big story to finally get the belt on him. Now what? I'm not sure. Hopefully, after his match with Jimmy Havoc, which he'll probably win, I would love to see Jimmy Havoc as the MLW championship. I doubt it will happen, but we can dream. We can dream. And we had the main event, the thing that I was looking forward to with MLW all week, the death match between LA Park and Mance Warner. That you pissed off the Destroyer after attacking his son last week, who got pissed off when Selena got some beer tipped on her. Swings and roundabouts, guys. LA Park was fantastic as always with these death matches. The guy is in fine form. He can do no wrong in my eyes. Mance Warner isn't clicking with me. And this was a bit of a downer for me. I still enjoyed this episode of MLW, but there's just something with Mance. I thought because he is a CZW champion, he's known for all the death matches, I thought the addition of hardcore violence would make me a bit more used to him. But for some reason, it's just not gelling. I think he's just got like a limited moveset, and the fact that his whole character, he's more of a yokel kind of character, it's just like deranged hillbilly type. So yeah, something isn't quite right. I'm trying to put my finger on it. Eventually we'll see if I can try and pinpoint. Maybe I just haven't watched enough CZW. Maybe I'm not familiar enough with good old Mance. LA Park won this match with the spear. It wasn't the quick pinfall like he usually does. He did a big senton bomb through a huge piece of wood. Like LA Park, again, even though I wasn't too impressed with Mance Warner in this episode, LA Park, I love you. You're one of my favorite wrestlers of all time. Please be in MLW for many more years to come because you are that good. Next week on MLW, we're going to have Teddy Hart scheduled to be in action. He's done an open challenge for his middleweight title because he is pissed off after having been in jail. We have Daga returning because in Battle Riot 2, he's going to be facing off against Low Key. Apparently, he didn't learn the first time when he got his ear ripped off. Maybe Low Key will rip off the other ear to see what happens. But Daga is going to be in a matchup against Ariel Dominguez. Gee, I wonder who's going to win that one. And then we have the debut of Airwolf going up against Ricky Martinez. Some quick MLW news before I move on. Like, we've got the two big shows coming up on the 4th of April and the 5th of April. We have Battle Riot 2 with some big names. Of course, there's more and more names announced for the big Battle Riot every day, except the big one that I wanted to mention, the Beast, known as Dan Severn, is going to be in the ring. The man who held the only Triple Crown UFC champion, the man who held those belts and the NWA championship at the same time. A lot of people owe their careers to the Beast known as Dan Severn, and even though he is in his 60s, he is still that damn good, and I cannot wait to see what he has in store for MLW. Our Battle Riot, aside from the match, we've got stuff like LA Park going up against Jimmy Havoc in a death match. Yes. We have Teddy Hart versus Ace Austin for the middleweight title. Ace Austin's only a bit of a newcomer, and already he's getting all these title shots in MLW and Impact. And we have Rise of the Renegades. We have Airwolf going up against Ray Phoenix. These are just some of the quick news that have come up. It's going to get bigger and better each time. We'll move on to All Elite Wrestling. We had an episode of Being Elite and an episode of Road to Double or Nothing because they are very consistent in what they do, unlike NWA who do it when they feel like it, but I love them both. So with the episode 144 of Being Elite C2E2, in reference to the Chicago Comic-Con convention, we had the Young Bucks and Kenny kind of discussing how they didn't really have Cody's back in Mexico. Or Kenny was telling that Young Bucks that they should have had it back, but they're saying that, yeah, we were kind of waiting for the big pop. That was going to be a big moment, and yeah, it didn't really work out for them. They're just saying like, oh, that little bit of a whimper there. Like, clearly you guys aren't that famous in Mexico. Ha ha ha. Good on you, Kenny. We had some coverage from the event. Nick Jackson is tripping balls when he's talking to his brother and Kenny, and he is still pissed off about Michael Nakazawa. He's imagining Kenny and Matt just like mocking him and just crazy laughter, just saying like, ah. It's really fun to see. We had the videos come in about the librarian for All Elite Wrestling. Some very cute videos from a couple kids, and then some other videos there, which I'm really, I cannot imagine the amount of videos they got for this audition. And then Joey Ryan decides, hey, maybe I'll throw my hat in the ring for a bit of audition. And he puts on some glasses to say he's a librarian. And it's the whole Clark Kent thing because Hornswoggle walks past him and saying that, hey, have you seen Joey Ryan? It's like, no, he went that way. Okay. And Joey has discovered the power of the glasses, the Clark Kent Superman glasses. He's discovered the secret that we all know and love. That's how I keep my identity hidden half the time. 'Tis the glasses. I love them. He had them off when he realized, and then Hornswoggle came back, and there was a little bit of a huh, before he tried to beat the crap out of him, which was fun. We had some more infomercials for the full year challenge, this time with Christopher Daniels, who this was last week for his birthday. Again, happy birthday to you, Fallen Angel. MJF being a prick again. Last week, I didn't understand this at first, but someone's explained it to me. So Cody has regained his hearing, which is a Being the Elite canon thing, and he realized just what MJF was like. And I said a few weeks ago, MJF, don't hurt Cody. He's a gentle soul. And this was kind of proof positive because we saw Cody kind of cherishing his best bud jacket, and he just the tears. Oh, the onions were in the room that day. And then we had confirmed AEW and CEO Gaming doing another event for the second straight year. So last year the event was hosted by New Japan, and this year it's going to be hosted by All Elite Wrestling. But the organizer called up and wanted to have a piece of Michael Nakazawa because last year, I believe he had a match with him. It was more of a comedic style match. And this time he wants some revenge. And Nick loves this idea. He's just saying, do you want to hurt him? Just like, yeah, I'm pissed off. Do you want to kill him? I don't know if I'll go that far, man. And he's like, we'll get back to that. Sure, I'll make it happen for you. And that is confirmed. Nakazawa against the CEO of the Fighting Game Championships. This big collaboration. No other matches have been announced yet. I'm really curious if we're going to have more matches for that. So we're slowly starting to see the bigger picture of All Elite Wrestling come about, where we have Fight for the Fallen, Double or Nothing still hasn't happened yet. They've got a couple more shows, and then hopefully they have their weekly episodes when they get their TV deal or however else they organize it. We had the Road to Double or Nothing. So they're really going through. So StarCast 2 will be at Caesar's Palace, which is, they made sure to point out that it's not a part of All Elite Wrestling. It's not hosted by them. Like, there's a distinction between them. So I feel like they kind of threw that in there for guys like The Undertaker, who has gotten a lot of flack for being involved with this with Vince McMahon when he could have been doing WrestleMania and stuff like that. But it was pretty much why StarCast 2 is so great, listening to some of the legends, showing that they've got an app planned, seeing guys like Raven, DDP, like Eric Bischoff, like Scott Hall talk about the beauty that is StarCast, the level of communication between the fans, which is lovely. We had some more stuff where, like, some more coverage of C2E2, and Cody is going over designs for his match. He's got a little Alucard kind of feel for it. Like, I'm hoping that's a Helsing reference, because if so, I love you, Cody. And he's talking to his design. Oh, he's talking to one of the seamstresses who we talked about last week, which, can I point out? So last week it was Sandra, I believe, the former WWE seamstress, and Cutler is doing Cody's gear, and she's been doing the Young Bucks gear as well for quite a while. So maybe Sandra has been brought on to do maybe like the new talent, or even specifically the female performers, while Mrs. Cutler is still doing the Elite. That this is just a bit of star speculation, but the fact that people get to speculate about the roles of the people who are off screen, that, like, from those people right up there to Jim Ross, how he's still in talks, it better damn happen. It shows that AEW, once again, the point of changing the world or changing the universe, if you believe Chris Jericho. Like, they are putting light on issues like this. And like with Culture City a few weeks back, I could not praise them enough for the fact that they had their collaboration. They are opening the doors with this stuff. Their chief brandy officer, like, she seems like the role that she has, and that she's clearly committed to diversity, putting a real shine on their support staff. It's kind of like the Ultimate Warrior's Hall of Fame speech, where he mentioned the unsung heroes who no one gives credit to make sure that these shows go ahead in like a big way. The costume designers they had, their accountants, we know their accountant now, their money guy, talking about the lengths that it would take to make sure the budget was right. This is the age of wrestling we live in, guys. It's completely new territory. I love it. Like, you should love it too. We're going to see more and more of this. I cannot wait. Double or Nothing is going to be something that we've never seen before. And in this world of professional wrestling, that's a rarity. It can be a rarity, and the experience will be like no other. I can guarantee it. That's what I hope for. That's what I'm sure they will do. I mentioned that NWA, there is no episode of 10 Pounds of Gold or Willie Mack's episodes as well to defend the national championship in all 51 states, which, you know, the One Nation, when you type in One Nation in Australia, you come up with something very, very different. I will not touch on that, but we have a match. I believe Willie defended his middleweight title against someone, and then we had a bit of a segment where, again, Nick Aldis is sizing up the villain Marty Scurll, saying that he could have had a title shot any other time. He could have been a partner with him at the Crockett Cup, but he decided to cash in that bit early to go up against him, and he's pissed off. And Marty Scurll said, no, it's all part of the plan, because that way I can defend against you. I can go up against you as the Ring of Honor World Champion. I love this collaboration they're doing, where they don't have to not mention the Ring of Honor stuff to help promote the NWA stuff. Very good stuff there. Nick pushed Marty. He went out of the ring, and before Marty could do anything, Camille just is fierce, stood in his way. You cannot touch the queen known as Camille. Silent, like, she's the next China. She's the next China when it comes to this. I've not seen her wrestle yet, but it feels like that's what they're going for. And you know what? I love the fact that Camille is looking after the champion known as Nick Aldis. Before we get into other news, guys, I should mention as well, with Being the Elite, AAA announced that they're going to have a press conference around about WrestleMania time. I believe this might have something to do with All Elite Wrestling, because, of course, we had Cody there last week. I'm hoping it's more of a collaboration or more names announced for Double or Nothing. One can only hope. So before we get into the other big news from all the wacky, weird world of wrestling that we all know and love, let's hear a quick word from our sponsors.
Promotional consideration paid for by the following.
Alright guys, just before we get started, I want to take a second to tell you about a game I've been playing on my iPhone. You can get it on iPhone, you can get it on Android, all the tablets and what have you. It is called the Muscle Hustle app. They are good friends of the show, and they were hooking us up with codes to sort of help you guys get ahead if you were to decide to play the game. But unfortunately, in the latest software updates with iTunes and what have you, the codes aren't working. So we're trying to get that fixed. But in the meantime, if you click the link in the show notes and download the Muscle Hustle, it's a fantastic game. It's you collect wrestlers and train your wrestlers up, all with unique individual gear and everything to raise them through the ranks from jobber to superstar to legend. You go around collecting the titles, and you can even play with your friends. So unfortunately, no leg up to offer you, but if you hit the link in the show notes, it will let them know that we sent you, and it'll help us out, it helps them out, and it helps you out, because it's a really fun game to play. So check out the Muscle Hustle app on iOS, Android, and all your mobile devices. The link, of course, is in the show notes. Hey everyone, just want to take a second to tell you about one of our new sponsors, OUTBREAK Nutrition. OUTBREAK Nutrition are creating supplements for survival, sharper minds, quicker reflexes, all the energy you need to take your performance to the next level, whether that be on the field, in the gym, on the gaming field. That's right, they have specifically designed gaming supplements as well to help you focus on those late night sessions. They even sell coffee, you guys, at Outbreak Nutrition. You can get coffee pods, you can get coffee beans, you can get supplements for the bedroom as well if you want to enhance your performance there. These are performance enhancing supplements for every aspect of your life, specifically designed by gamers, for gamers, to stay fit and healthy in the gym, to stay sharp and focused on the game, and to dominate in all areas of life. So check out OUTBREAKNUTRITION.com, and for being a listener of our podcast, they will give you 10% off your order when you enter the code B+. That is BPLUS at checkout. So make sure, if you want to stay on top of your game, if you want to take your performance to the next level, OUTBREAKNUTRITION.com, enter the code B+ at checkout.
Alright guys, we are back. Moving forward, let's go through the signings, the returns, the injuries, who's left, who's staying, who just wants to go, who's just fed up. I'm going to help you break it all down. The new signings, quote unquote, there's no new people per se, but Becky Lynch, the man, we're going to be talking about her a lot in the next coming weeks with WrestleMania, because I haven't touched on this, but it's been confirmed. The main event for WrestleMania 35, Becky versus Charlotte versus Ronda Rousey. Oh boy, we wanted it, now we got it. I'm very excited, and the man is expected to be re-signing with WWE, another multi-year deal. Of course, WWE wanted to lock down as many of their stars as possible to their contracts to make sure that no one else got them. Even though they might not be doing so much with them, they just, the fact that, no, you can't have them. Like, they're ours. I'm not going to dive into that rabbit hole right now, but it's expected that Becky's going to be signing because she is the biggest thing in women's wrestling right now. Like, she's probably even bigger than a lot of the storylines with a lot of the male wrestlers, I'm going to be honest. Like, let me know who you think. Like, is the man storyline bigger than Kofi Mania, or is it bigger than Seth Rollins' rise to defeat the Beast, to conquer the Beast known as Brock Lesnar? I'm not too sure. Let us know what you guys think. We'd love to hear from you. There's some rumored signings on their way, because the big news that I found, because this can be a leaving and a signings thing, so I'm going to mention this, guys. The lawsuits between Lucha Underground and some of their performers have been resolved, so much so that 4 of their big names have been released from their Lucha Underground contracts. We had Joey Ryan, King Cuerno, Evilise, and Cobra Moon. Evilise, I'm so happy for her. She's been wanting to get out of her contract for ages. For those of you who don't know, those guys were the most invested in Lucha Underground. And with Season 5 looking pretty much dead now, like, everyone said that it doesn't look like it's going to happen. If they do get a Season 5 without these stars now, I'm sure they could rally up a few performers to get back to the Lucha Temple. But it will just be very different. They'll have a lot of work cut out for them. I feel like it's safe to say that Season 5 ain't going to happen. And we can just appreciate Lucha Underground for what it was. So these guys can actually now do other opportunities in professional wrestling, because they were locked down to, if Season 5 were to happen, that they would have to be performing for them. Now they are released, and King Cuerno, apparently WWE has been looking at him for a very long time, for quite a while, and I don't blame them. Like, of course, like that, his doesn't go by King Cuerno outside of Lucha. But apparently, again, one of those people that I don't know if WWE actually want him, or it's because they want to make sure no one else has him. Let me know what you think. If that was the only roadblock for them signing him, we'll soon find out if that's the case, and I hopefully hear word from King Cuerno. And this news means that Joey Ryan, because we've wanted to hear that he's a part of the Elite. He is a devoted, loving member of All Elite Wrestling. It's just that it hasn't been on paper yet. And the fact that he's now settled this lawsuit means that they can pretty much, in the next coming weeks, I feel like it's safe to say that they're going to have Joey Ryan is All Elite Wrestling. It's going to happen. The King of Dong Style better be a part of the All Elite Wrestling roster now that he is unrestricted from the land of Lucha. So, and no real returns yet, guys. Trying to think if anyone. There's been, of course, the rumors about Luke Harper and a couple other stars, but again, nothing new from last week. Injuries. Damn it. Flip Gordon, you beautiful bastard. Not again. It looks like he has once again had a knee injury. So he came back after his MCL injury. He performed at a OTT event in Ireland. The next day, it looked like his leg had been like locked up. That same leg that was injured. And it's believed that he might have had a tear or something, I can't remember the medical term. But the main takeaway from that is the fact that he might be out for another 4 to 6 months. Damn it. Flip. Look after yourself, man. It just goes to show that being a professional wrestler, the life has its highs and it has its lows. When Flip Gordon comes back, because he will, he's a stubborn bastard, and that's why we love him. I hope that he still is able to capitalize on the momentum that he had from Ring of Honor, because he is one of those guys, those big babyface guys from Ring of Honor that could do so much for them and help revitalize a lot of their roster, which pretty much the Villain Enterprises has done most of the work now that Flip has been outside recuperating. And he'll be recuperating for a little bit longer. People leaving, though, as well. We've had Ricardo Miller and Stacey Irving Jr. They've left the NXT Performance Center. We don't exactly know why that the case is, but they only were just announced to be like the latest signings, like I'm going to say a month ago. Very bizarre news. Like, it might be for personal reasons. We can only speculate on this. I believe Stacey Irving has got a line of like a fitness program without using the gym. He's got his finger in many pies, so it's not like he's going to be out of work or out of opportunities in the near future. It might just be the fact that again, WWE has the biggest performance schedule of any other promotion. They work the most hours. They work the hardest to do what they do on a consistent basis, which in terms of performance or in terms of preference, whether you like it or not, they are the biggest platform in professional wrestling. Like, and some people want to go to that point, some people don't. Some people, like I believe Sammy Guevara, have actually said that he just has never interested him to be a part of that roster. When All Elite Wrestling came calling, he was there he answered their call without question. But aside from the NXT guys, other people who have left, or have they? The Bella Twins. So on the season finale of Total Bellas, Nikki announced that she is retiring from wrestling, so she's joining her sister. And then this was aired only like last week, so when they recorded it, it was probably about a month or so ago. And no joke, only a couple days after I posted and I updated everybody about that on the Facebook page, we hear that the Bella Twins might want to come back, because apparently when they announced that news, they didn't know anything about the Women's Tag Team Championships. And they've got a new podcast now, so they revealed all on their new podcast, which was a nice little bit of marketing, and not at all planned. Ha 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 ha. Not at all planned, not at all. So they're saying that if they do come back, they will probably come back to claim the Women's Tag Team Championships and prove why they were the best women's tag team there was before there was even a belt for them. I don't want to see them back, but they are a big staple of WWE's reality TV side of things, of the reality TV side of entertainment, that if they want to come back, I don't think WWE won't stop them. It won't matter if the fans don't want them there, but that's the case. And another person who was leaving, or is here, was apparently Goldust. So if you haven't heard the story, Pro Wrestling Sheet reported that Goldust's contract with WWE was soon expiring, and people naturally like, oh, well, he might want to join his brother and be a part of All Elite Wrestling. And oh, Cody doesn't have a opponent announced yet for Double or Nothing. Maybe he's facing off against his brother. He said it was personal, and in the latest episode of Double or Nothing, the Road to YouTube series, he said, like, do you want to have gold in your uniforms? Like, nah, I'll stay away from gold. Is the gold okay? He's like, yeah, it's fine. Like, should I stay away from it? And people are like, oh, it's Goldust. And then Dustin Rhodes Goldust has gone onto his Twitter and just shut the smart marks down, saying that I am still with WWE. I'm not going anywhere. This is why I hate smart marks. This is all hearsay. You people are idiots. As much as again, and this is why we need to stress the level of allegedly and reportedly when we say things, because it's all hearsay until it's officially confirmed by the source, officially confirmed by the promotion itself, or enough people can join together and vouch for each other about the legitimacy of whatever claims come out. So yeah, interesting stuff. Of course, hopefully one day we will see Goldust, Dustin Rhodes, alongside his brother in All Elite Wrestling, but alas, we will have to wait for another time. Moving on to the other weird wrestling news we have, guys. I've got some WWE news, I've got some All Elite Wrestling news, just some heartwarming stuff, and just the plain old weird, as we always do. I'll go to the land of AAA because we mentioned All Elite Wrestling before. UFC fighter Cain Velasquez is going to make his debut in AAA. This is a big, big signing. For those of you who don't know, Cain Velasquez was a 14-3 UFC fighter. The guy was he's a big record fighter, and it's expected on August 3rd for AAA's Triple Mania event, which is their WrestleMania, that he would make his debut. We don't know the names yet, but for those of you who don't know a little bit of history, Velasquez knocked out Brock Lesnar back in 2010 to capture the UFC Heavyweight Championship. That's a big deal. And if you remember your history, from last year, year before, he's been seen in the watching NXT shows. He's been seen backstage at WWE. This is sporadically, ages ago. It looked like WWE was kind of eyeing him to appear, and it looked like he was very passionate about being a pro wrestler and taking his love for pro wrestling to that next level. But he's done it with AAA, which is very interesting. Is more it might be because that's more the promotion that he's more familiar with, or that's the one where his love of professional wrestling lies more with. You can tell that some WWE official was trying tooth and nail to get Velasquez in, and then guess what? He probably would have had a spot against Brock Lesnar. If not for the Universal title, I feel like they would have had another match to right the wrongs, quote unquote, of Brock Lesnar losing the UFC Championship. But I'm curious who they have planned to break in Velasquez into his debut match. It's going to be a very, very interesting debut, to say the least, because big fighters can sometimes have great debut years, like Ronda Rousey, who, again, we mentioned is a part of the main event at WrestleMania, and she's only been in wrestling for just over a year. What a debut year! This debut year is what any performer, male or female, could have ever hoped for in the land of WWE. And we have the alleged reports, Dave Meltzer is speculating that we're only less than 2 weeks away from WrestleMania, that they're going to add a little bit of an extra stipulation to the main event, because outside only a few days ago, we have a new SmackDown Women's Champion for the 8th time, Charlotte Flair. Also, in her first win of 2019, she won the SmackDown Women's Championship. But it's speculated that that main event is going to be a winner-take-all. So if either Ronda or Charlotte pin each other, they will be dual champions. Or if Becky pins either Ronda or Charlotte, she will win that championship. I can see that happening. I don't see them unifying the belts. For more like coverage on this, like have a listen to CJ and Danders talk about it in the View from WWE. So I won't dive into it too much, but I don't think they're going to be unifying the belts, or because they just need to focus on their divisions more, and they just need to. They put themselves in the position by making sure that the Raw Women's Championship was the biggest thing in wrestling. So they took away Asuka's WrestleMania match. They took away the Fatal 4-Way planned, which sucks for Asuka. Very underappreciated. Apparently, what was originally meant to be planned was her going up against Mandy Rose, which we saw it at Fastlane already, and it looks like the primary reason for it being cancelled was that Vince needed to get rid of a match, so it was decided that to be the SmackDown title, and he had a change of heart apparently hours before the SmackDown show, and he was said to be worried that nobody cared about a singles match between Asuka and any of the 4 women in the Fatal 4-Way, so he decided to put the title on Charlotte instead. Vince, they put themselves in this position. And as much as I want to criticize them and tell them they're idiots for ruining Asuka the way they have, because they are, if we look back on this in a few years' time, we won't remember the build-up like this. What we will remember is the image at the end of WrestleMania with Becky as the Raw Women's Champion, Raw Women's Championship, Charlotte with the SmackDown title, Sasha and Bayley with the tag team titles, the 4 horsewomen holding up the sign, holding up all the gold to end WrestleMania. They have sacrificed the logic and they've burned a lot of bridges with some of their women's performers to make sure that this will be the final image. I can guarantee you that's what's going to happen. So, other news for the women's wrestlers, it's been confirmed by WWE that they're going to have their 2nd annual Women's Battle Royal. So, all the women who aren't a part of any other storylines like the main event, they will be in the Women's Battle Royal, which hopefully gives them something to do. And I don't know whether this will be a pre-show thing. With any luck, it gets a bit of coverage and the ladies get a bit more to work with. Hopefully, because it's going to be a very, very long day of wrestling at WrestleMania 35. It'll be hard to keep up with it all. But we will try, guys. We will cover it for you as best we can, because you know we will. We have apparently the reports, like, again, we mentioned this on View for WWE, but Bad Reputation is going to be performed live for Ronda Rousey, which again is very good for her. But listen to CJ and Dan just talk about that more if you want to hear our proper thoughts on that. Speaking of people with bad reputations. No, sorry, that's a bad segue, guys. Speaking of people with bad reputation... No, actually, I will use that. Speaking of people with bad reputations, guys, Vince McMahon is in a little bit of hot water. Well, not him specifically, but WWE. Because for WrestleMania 36, they're already looking at next year's WrestleMania. They are trying to lock up the indie weekend. They are trying to buy out buildings to make sure that no other promotions are going on at the same time as WrestleMania 36 in Tampa, because they are sick of the WrestleMania weekend. That's allegedly. They're trying to make sure that they are the only game in town, which they have the power to do it. And if they do that, it kind of guarantees the wrestlers who would have been appearing on those shows around WrestleMania week definitely get paid, which it depends how much a guaranteed payday will work. For some promotions, it will get rid of maybe a lot of them. Some might just say no in principle. But yeah, WWE, of course, they have the power to do this, but the fact that indie shows have been a part of that whole WrestleMania thing for years. It seems like it's just the natural thing, that it feels like a nice build up to WrestleMania. Like the fact that all these shows are around WrestleMania week, it feels like a tribute to it, a tribute to our entire week of wrestling. So that when it's finally over, you're just like you're all wrestled out. But WWE apparently don't see it that way. And it's kind of, yeah, I don't like it. I don't like if this is true, this is bullshit. Because I feel for the independent promotions that are just trying to raise awareness and trying to get their name out there as best they can. Like some might see it as like leeching off of WrestleMania. I don't see it as leeching. I see it as just an entire week of wrestling, entire tribute to the love of the craft that is professional wrestling. But there are some promotions that they cannot do a damn thing about, like Joey Janela's Spring Break 4. He has already signed the deal a year in advance for his. So Joey Janela, he's kind of said to him, just like, you can do all this shit, but my stuff's still going to happen. So they won't be able to squash all the wrestling going on. And just imagine, this will only, the ones that stick around, imagine the attendance for all these shows. The fact that WWE have done this in defiance of indie wrestling. Like, it'll mean that the indie shows that are performing on that around that time, they're going to be even more popular. So they damn themselves as they do, damn themselves as they don't with a lot of the decisions they make. One company that definitely will never, ever be a part of WrestleMania week, and that is All Elite Wrestling. According to Cody, when a fan questioned him if they were to ever do a show around WrestleMania weekend, if it should just be like a signing or something, kind of like the block party that's happening at this in a couple weeks' time. And Cody just said flat out, like, no, that's WWE's game. We are never going to do that. Which, mad respect for them. They, again, the fact that other shows are doing it doesn't mean that they don't have to. And it would feel like an open act of, like it would feel like an open act of war. I feel like between the two companies, because it's a back and forth. It's not a battle. It's a standoff at the moment. And if they were to do that, then it would feel like, yeah, because AEW, like, they're making all the right moves. They are not in the position yet to be challenging WWE. And this is just like, yeah, just keep your distance, do your own thing, and your work will speak for itself. And I reckon once they get up and running, they won't have to fight against WWE because people will just be naturally going to them. At least that's how I feel. Of course, you guys let us know what you think. We'd love to hear from you all. Got a couple other news, guys. Vince McMahon, I mentioned, he's investing more and more of his money into the XFL, the Extreme Football League. He is determined to get this afloat, to make sure that this revival next year of the XFL is a success. He has sunk almost $500 million, I believe, probably more, into like selling his WWE shares into, or moving them more so, into his XFL company. If this works out for him, it's just one of those things. There have been very little wars that Vince McMahon has not won in the world of professional wrestling and outside in his business ventures. The one that he is, one of the few people that has ever bested Vince McMahon, the World Wildlife Federation, the old pandas. And like, aside from them, man, like, there are very few people that can say that they've got one over Vince McMahon. But you know what? Who knows? If I don't, again, this is coming from an Australian who is not familiar with American football. I don't see this being a big thing. They're going to try tooth and nail to make sure it happens. But I don't know. We'll see how it goes. Some other WWE news, guys. We have JoJo and Bray Wyatt announcing that they're going to have a baby. Baby Nash with a GN, in ode to Kevin Nash, I believe. But we haven't seen JoJo for a number of months. And the reason that when we heard the rumor mill, it was quote unquote personal issues, or personal reasons, which sounds so horrendous. Like, oh my God, what's happening? Is there been a death? Are they injured? Like, what's happened? But no, they just wanted to take some time to enjoy their pregnancy and baby Nash is expected to be coming in the next few months. Big congratulations to JoJo and to the Eater of Worlds, Bray Wyatt. Well, guess what? His new world will be upon him soon, and his name's Nash. Very sweet. I feel like this might be part of the reason why we haven't seen Bray Wyatt as much as well. Very sporadic appearances, like he's been doing enough to get by, but just having the time to be private with his wife. I don't know if they're married. With his partner, I'm going to say, just to be safe. It's been an interesting time in the world of professional wrestling. We have the date and location of All Elite Wrestling reportedly revealed. According to Dave Meltzer, guys, All In 2 will be happening at the Sears Center in Chicago, the same arena as the initial All In was last September, on August 31st of this year. So this could be the third event officially announced by the newly formed All Elite Wrestling, with Double or Nothing happening in May, Fight for the Fallen happening in July. The second All Elite event was teased by Kenny during the panel at C2E2. Like, let's maybe come back to Chicago for what? A Comic-Con? And the crowd were chanting All In 2, and he's like, and the Buck kind of said, let's do what they're saying. There is a building with our faces on the plaque on the entrance. Maybe we should go there. All In 1 had like about over 11,000 fans packed in. It was the largest independent wrestling event ever. We will see what happens with that. I look forward to whatever they have in store for us. And to end the show, guys, we've had, like, last week we had a very wholesome story about Becky Lynch helping a fan who was suffering a seizure and stuff, and usually I do the weird stuff, and we're back to the weird, this time involving the Big Show and the Undertaker, who he spoke about his early days with WWE and how, like, Undertaker was a great mentor for him when he arrived from WCW, and that he was kind of scared of him. But Big Show revealed that the Undertaker once sent him a picture of his testicles. I mean, as you do? No, not all of us do that. But apparently, during the time when Undertaker was guiding, mentoring the Big Show, saying that Taker once sent him a pretty lewd picture. We had a great match many years later. I sent him a text and he said, thanks for such a great match. And he sent me a text back and it's a picture of his balls and he's flipping him the bird. And he's like, I don't know how to respond to that. This is kind of proof positive that the veil of the dead man persona it's gone. It's gone. Big Show would never, ever have shared this story if the legacy, the character of the Undertaker was so, like, protected as it has been, from a few years ago. The fact that he's revealing it now, and, like, so casually, Mark Calloway, like, the Undertaker is no more. It's Mark Calloway as the Undertaker. Like, that's how we should be referring to him now. Like, But yeah, now we have that lovely image of the Big Show and the Undertaker for you guys to deal with. So while you have to repress that, I'm going to leave you with that. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. If you like what we do, please leave us a 5-star review. We really appreciate it. If you want to follow me, I am at Mr Myster1ous with a 1 instead of an I on all the socials. Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. Hit me up. We'll have a nice chat. I do like to talk to you guys. It means a lot to us that we get to have the level of communication we do with you. It really means a lot to us to try and answer you guys as best we can with our call-in shows and try and deliver the best content we can, because that's why we have our Patreon as well. Because our Patreon is to make sure that you guys, we deliver the content what you want, when you want. Please donate however much you can. It really goes to a great cause, and it just makes us all bigger and better. It keeps us honest, keeps us humble. We can't say enough about you guys. So like, share, subscribe, hit that 5-star review. Thank you guys so much for listening to this episode of All The Wrest. I've been Mr Myster1ous, and I'll see you later.
Hold one. Arm drag.
You're not doing this. Get out. Let me tell you a personal story about Vince McMahon.
You just made the list.
So, no speak English.
Dummy. Goodbye and good night. Hold two. Arm bar.
This is ever been in.
It's still real to me, damn it!
Got